Today on episode 5 of the Sean and Bo Show, 50 Cent. Good rapper, terrible pitcher. But was it a conspiracy?
Bieber does his best Donald Sterling impression.
Plus, despite the fact the Pacers got beat like a drum by the Miami Heat, Bo's still working on his Roy Hibbert needlepoint. We'll have Stephen Babb on to talk about the NBA playoffs. It's the Sean and Bo Show. What's going on, everybody? We're back live from Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's episode 5 of the Sean and Bo Show. I'm Sean O'Donnell, joined with my co-host, Bo Greer, former UNM football player, and we were both sitting out here sweating because it's officially summer in the desert in Albuquerque, and it's this time of the year, Bo, where I'm like, why the hell do I live here?
What happened to springtime? It's almost as if, I just remember 3 weeks ago, we were wearing hoodies doing the show because it had cooled off. And then all of a sudden, what is it, 98 degrees today and going to be at about 101 tomorrow. It's relentless this time of year. But we stay out here because we like to make fun of all you poor saps that live on the East Coast and in the Midwest all the other months out of the year. So we have to put up with the heat for a little bit.
And that'll conclude the old man segment where Bo and I discuss the weather. Now on to sports. Bo, I understand that you checked out the progress of Josh Hamilton. He's currently in Albuquerque playing for the Albuquerque Isotopes. You went to check out a game?
Yeah, actually, it's he's with the Salt Lake City Bees.
Okay. I thought he was with the Topes.
Yeah, AAA team for the Anaheim Angels.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense. He doesn't play for the Dodgers.
Yeah, not with the Dodgers, but he is. Hey, you were close. He's close by, right down the road, near all the fun stuff by the Anaheim. What's in Anaheim? Disney World and
Disneyland.
Yeah, Disneyland. I'm sorry, I went to the one in Florida.
You get it right, Bo.
But no, it was really exciting. It was Saturday. I just finished up with work, ladies and gentlemen. Went over to a buddy of mine's house, and we're sitting there drinking a beer. And he's a huge baseball fan. I think this guy plays on like 6 different softball teams. He was a big high school baseball player here in Albuquerque. And he's like, guess what, buddy? Josh Hamilton's in town. And I'm thinking, so what? Because I'm not thinking Josh Hamilton, 2010 AL MVP, 2010 AL batting champion, most notable, crushed every ball thrown to him.
Did a bunch of drugs.
Yeah, crushed every ball thrown to him in the home run derby. Yeah, and everybody also knows about the photos where he relapsed there a couple of years ago and he was in that little roadside dive bar. But no, it was exciting. I have a video saved on my phone. It was like he was taking batting practice out there going against those AAA pitchers. It was just nice to see. I believe, Sean, the crowd rounded out about 10,500 here in Albuquerque to get out there and see Mr. Josh Hamilton. And, you know, I was talking to my father about it, and, you know, a few years ago, Manny Ramirez came through here. And it's interesting being in a AAA setting like this with Albuquerque. You kind of get the big stadium feel. You know, they really packed the house, and I think I waited in line. I want to say it was an hour.
For the Isotopes.
For the
Isotopes.
Isotopes.
That's dedication.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, everybody's talking about different experiences. I remember I went to Wrigley last minute with a buddy of mine. We got some hot dogs across the street at that 7-Eleven that sells the jumbo hot dogs and the old-style beers there. And we were in the stadium sitting down in the first inning, and we didn't leave on the L train until probably 40 minutes ago from the south side. And I'm like, I am in Albuquerque, New Mexico, standing in that hot sun from the weather report you just heard, sweating from all ends. I had a few beers. Yes, I had a couple beers, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm telling you, the only thing on my mind is I'm going to see Josh Hamilton. And when I saw him, I actually missed the first at bat. I just had to hear it, and I was thankful it was just a single. His second at bat, he had a stand-up double, and I mean, he just barely swung. It was like a swing that was so fluid, and he pokes it out there, warning track power, and a stand-up double, and that was pretty much the last exciting thing he did all night. But that's here. You heard it first. I tweeted about it.
Yeah, you're on the Twitter now.
Yeah. I actually got on Twitter. People were helping me out. I actually was assisted by a few local teenagers. It was amazing. They saw me struggling there in the stands. They're like, "Look at this guy." It's the first time in my life I felt old, Sean. These kids just barely look like they got their driver's license. They grab my smartphone from me and complete my tweet and tell me, "Yeah, you see this up here, sir, in the up here right-hand corner? you had too many words. And I'm like, oh yeah, just like Bo Greer, to be talking too much and have too many words in the tweet. They wouldn't let me post it.
So yeah, you can follow the show. Bo's tweeting a lot now. It's at Sean and Bo Show. And we're also on iTunes this week, which is pretty cool. Finally got listed on iTunes. You can subscribe to us there. You can check out our audio site at Sean and Bo Show at podomatic.com. And we need your help. Please tell a friend. Tell a friend about the show. Show it to them. Listen to it. Subscribe. It would really help us out. And speaking of baseball, we learned this past week that 50 Cent, although a pretty decent rapper, not a good pitcher. This is all over the news. It's kind of old news at this point. He threw out a pitch for during a Mets game and missed by, 30, 40 feet. But now the news comes out that this may have been, Bo, a conspiracy.
Illuminati?
Yeah, that's right. Well, not quite. 50 Cent, he's got an album coming out. He's got some new show on cable coming out.
Stars Network.
Yeah, something like that. And, I guess that would normally make sense under the old adage, any publicity is good publicity. But does a guy throwing like a girl make you want to buy his album?
First of all, I'm just going to get this out there. I was on the Stars Network. You're sitting across from a person who was on Stars Network, I want to believe, a good 7 episodes of a show, the Crash television show.
Wow.
So Stars will put themselves on anything. And I noticed that. I'm glad you brought that up because as soon as the pitch goes viral, I see on ESPN, like within 12 hours, there's a banner for his new show. And that's the first place you could really see the video where they had it primetime HD. Because, on YouTube, it's usually people that are recording it on their phones or they see it, rebroadcast through a television that they're recording it. So I was like, wow, ESPN really lucked out with this one. And then I started thinking, no, they don't get lucky in this world. This was planned out. He was going to throw this pitch. We know he's a rapper. He's a gangster. He's taking some bullets. I imagine he wasn't playing too many baseball games in the good old Bronx back in the 80s when he was working on his drug career, which we know he was pretty good at. A guy who gets 9 bullets put in people, he wasn't doing small things. The guy was not moving dime bags around, okay? So I understand the pitch, and then I've seen him act. Hey, being a thespian myself, I did a little acting in high school. I'm not afraid to admit it. I did that stuff. The guy's got some skill. It's undeniable. It's kind of like Ice Cube. These guys had to use another avenue to be taken seriously.
You're not comparing 50 Cent to Ice Cube from Friday. Come on,
these guys can. They really do. And what I like, it was Samuel L. Jackson actually has a rule. I didn't even know that he had a rule. He will not work with actors or rappers or athletes until they've done at least 10 movies. And like 50 Cent was one of these guys on this list. So I'm waiting for them to do something, and I'm like, is he going to get to this level or is he just going to be another B movie? The guy I worked with on the Stars Network, Eric Roberts, is he going to be a B movie king for the rest of his life? 50 Cent will be doing all the knockoff movies. If they make another Lethal Weapon, there'll be a Ghetto Weapon starring 50 Cent. He'll be that guy for the rest of his life.
So we only need 9 more sequels of He's Got Game before we can see Jesus Shuttlesworth on screen with Samuel L.
Could you imagine Samuel L. Jackson playing Doc Rivers? He'll be his coach. They'll be reenacting the first Big Three because, they don't want LeBron and Bosh and Wade to be known as the Big Three. They're like, no, we did it first. They're going to make a movie. Samuel L. Jackson's going to be the coach. Who's McHale? It wasn't Kevin McHale a big part in that?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Who's going to play Kevin McHale? Ben Affleck?
Not tall enough.
Not tall. Who could be... Sean, you have a good Kevin McHale
Vince
look.
Vaughn, maybe?
Oh, yeah, Vince. But Vince, yeah, you could probably pass him off as that. He is a very tall guy. And here we are trying to cast a movie that's not even being thought about in the minds of Hollywood. Okay,
Bo, good news. I found the real pimp spot to hold our fantasy football draft this year. Now, check this out. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, totally not biased on the story one bit. But this is a good deal if you really consider it. The Kansas City Chiefs have started a program where you and your buddies can have your fantasy draft at Arrowhead Stadium in a luxury suite with various amenities. Check this out, Bo. $85 a ticket. All right, you got to get 8 friends together, 8 ticket minimum, $85 ticket. Here's what it gets you. A private suite for your group, wireless internet, in-suite all-you-can-eat buffet, and beer.
I'm in.
That's, $85. Okay, so far we're sounding good. Plus, you get 1 game ticket per participant to the Chiefs-Chargers game in late December, and a photo taken by a Chiefs team photographer. $85? We can drink at least that much beer and cover the cost.
Well, first I want to applaud the staff at Arrowhead, publicists. I don't know who it is who came up with the idea, but for the first time in my lifetime, those are real world prices. Those are prices that are designed for people who have jobs. 9 times out of 10 when you hear about luxury boxes and, kind of a private experience, it's always like $1,500, $1,200,
Yeah.
So, one thing I am surprised is that you guys did beat us to the punch. You know that if that's going on in Arrowhead, Jerryland is probably building on a unit next to the stadium to house the fantasy football for the Cowboys.
It's actually inside the Victoria's Secret built into the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a special draft room there.
You know what? You guys are lucky, though. That is a real good deal, and I'm going to bet money. Sean, if you want to do it, I'd do it with you because that game at the end of the year, I'm willing to bet my kids on it, is going to be a playoff game.
Yeah, that's all well and good, but we don't have 6 other friends.
I have some guys, and you're in luck
you do?
because in my league, I have 2 Chiefs fans.
Okay.
So, you could join our league, and I bet those guys would be all for something like that. That just sounds like fun. And then the potential to go back and see the Chiefs, Chargers battle for playoff position or possibly the division because you have no idea what's going to happen, Broncos fans, Raiders fans.
Yeah, that's
calm
right.
down.
You tell them, Bo.
Calm down.
Mighty Chiefs.
Oh, my God. How many times have we seen these super teams fall on their face? Oh, we're going to get all these free agents, and we're going to get all the guys that had all the best stats in the past 3 years. And, yeah, you forget that was 3 years ago.
So we know how popular football is in America, but a story like this just confirms it. I saw this earlier today. According to a couple of University of Cal Berkeley researchers, they pinpointed that when the Chicago Bears, played Monday night games, total crime citywide in Chicago dropped 13%. So apparently the criminals are sitting back and watching Tirico and Chucky call the Bears games.
Yeah.
They're saving their muggings for after the game.
Yeah, and the scary thing about that is I hope that they're not using that money that they're obtaining through their illegal activities to go to the game. Because if that's the case, Soldier Field just went to a whole new level. The meaning behind the field, the people sitting in the stands. Now you're talking about some of the most hardened criminals from the south side of Chicago running around in the field next to you and your kids while you're trying to enjoy the game. I don't know if you can enjoy a game if you're a Bears fan, though.
The paper went on to say that Bears games on Sundays only resulted in a 3% dip, and Super Bowl led to a 26% drop in crime. It's amazing.
That's... Golly, that's like the one I seen last year that during the Super Bowl, pornographic searches dropped like 30-some%. And I'm just amazed that one event, one game is able to draw so many different types of people.
You can only do so many things at once.
Well, what I always was as a kid, I used to think it was so amazing when, you remember back in the day, when football would be on, ESPN would be playing, before they had Red Zone and all that stuff, it would be figure skating. You would literally flip over to ESPN, and it would be the total opposite sport from what the broadcast networks had playing. If it was NBA season, they'd have bowling on ESPN, and they still kind of do it today, but it's not to the level that it was because everybody capitalizes off the machine that is the NFL. But yeah, it is amazing to see.
The paper went on to say that the evidence suggests that these reductions are largely explained by potential offenders spending their time watching the game on TV rather than engaging in criminal activity. But the question is, are the criminals the ones that are watching the game instead of committing crimes, or are the cops the ones that are watching the game and not arresting people? Because, they could still be committing crimes, but, if your local officer is a big Bears fan, they might not be quite as concerned with the drug bust when the Bears are driving down the field. So,
Yeah, that is a good one. Statistics are funny. As you know, my degree, I don't know if I've told people on the podcast, I have a degree in criminology. So that's basically just statistics and studying how these criminal statistics, these FBI statistics can be skewed. And there are all kinds of factors. It could be something as simple as if those games are played during, from the 2 to 5 slot, that could be shift change. The cops could be on a shift change. So there's all kinds of things that could come into that. Unfortunately, though, man, I'm just not going to put that on the city of Chicago's police department. I'm going to put that on the simple fact that football brings so many different people together. And it has the ability, and all sports do it. I mean, I was just watching the 30 for 30 on the Bad Boys, the Detroit Pistons. Bill Laimbeer was rich and living on the good side of Chicago, and Isaiah Thomas is living on the poor side of Chicago looking for a meal every night, and basketball brings them together. And I wouldn't be surprised if, sitting there in them stadiums, you do have a few police lieutenants sitting next to the guy who's running the local dope game, just because they all enjoy the Bears on Sunday.
Football is king.
Football's king, buddy.
Big story that broke today. Football Hall of Famer Dan Marino sues. He joins the NFL lawsuit over concussions. And Bo, I know you got strong feelings on this whole topic, but basically not a lot of new information besides the headline. It was kind of generic what the suit said in regards to Marino. Quote, on information and belief, the plaintiff sustained repetitive, traumatic, subconscious, and or concussive head impacts during NFL games and or practices. So I don't know if Marino is feeling the effects of playing football now, is low on cash, or just wants to support the other players that maybe aren't quite as high profile as him.
The Isotona royalties ran out. That's the only thing that I could think of. Or no way would Jim Carrey stopped paying him for the role he did in Ace Ventura. Whatever it is.
Laces out.
Yeah, these guys, it really makes me sick. It does, because being from the blue-collar background, watching my father work his butt off every day, seeing gentlemen in my community who worked in coal mines, I had an uncle and an aunt who had suffered a fall-in, broke multiple bones, it could not work, couldn't do half the things they did the day before that. They didn't make $5 million along the way, $10 million along the way. They were making their $50,000, $60,000 a year, and when they got hurt, they were still trying to figure out how to pay off a house, pay off a farm, send kids to college. Those are real problems. And day in and day out, we're going to be bombarded by these stories because I think the media knows they play at these motions. They, and the hardworking Americans, the guys who grow the corn, help us turn our lights on every day,
make podcasts.
Yeah, make podcasts. Yeah, that kind of stuff, man. It's one of those deals where they know it's going to tweak that bone and it's going to get us talking at the water cooler. So right here today, announced, I seen Dan Marino break the throwing record, whatever, Sunday night football game, Indianapolis Colts. He was in Indianapolis. My dad had tickets. Always respected him. I seen him play, I believe, 3 times against the Colts when I was a youth. Just lost a lot for him. Troy Aikman, really? I hope you're listening.
Why so?
Just because these guys made their money. They played a game in which they knew they could be injured. I'm injured. I have injuries. There's guys who played high school football who have injuries that stem from that. I have a buddy who has a back that is so messed up from his 3 years of playing varsity football in high school, and he works in a plastics plant. You think that doesn't bother him when he's trying to stand on his feet for, 60 hours a week? Yes, it does. But he can't sue Princeton Community High School and the Indiana High School Athletic Association because of those injuries. It's a mess. It's a cash grab. I've heard guys say...
Wait a second. Cash grab? Mm-hmm. How many multi-billion dollars does the NFL grab? I mean, they're the ones with money. You want to talk about, who's the fat cat in this equation? It's not the lesser-known players that aren't Dan Marino that are now feeling the effects of concussions. It's the NFL, and they've got plenty of money. And honestly, I don't feel sympathetic for billionaires. If these players were misled or just maybe not given the full truth during their playing days in the 70s, 80s when, this wasn't on the front burner, then yeah, they should.
But my problem with that too is a concussion's always been a concussion, right? And when people say that, I'm like, boxing used to be the biggest sport in our country. We've seen for years what happened to those guys from blow after repeated blow to the head. And the same concussion that you could experience in a boxing match is the same concussion you can get driving a race car, same concussion you can get catching a pass while going across the middle, Michael Irving, or, get your brain smashed in like Dan Marino trying to win a championship. Nobody told him to keep playing.
You sure about that?
Hey, maybe if they did.
Hey, come on, get back out there. The team needs you. You don't think that was said at some point in the 70s?
That's what makes me mad is like, because I never made it past the amateur level, I did do that for the team. Guys who talk about it, as if I get into this argument with a lot of people because they're saying, well, they were misled. They drugged them. No, brother was getting a $175,000 check every month. He loved the fact that the crowd screamed his name when he scored touchdowns. He loved the women. He loved the Porsches, the mansions, and everything that came with it. That's what you have a hard time giving up. If you ask me any day of the week, Bo, do you miss football? Yeah, I miss football. But what I really miss is that lifestyle. The ability to just, it's not really you do whatever you want, but people know what your goal is. You have a mission. He's a football player. He's getting ready for a season next year. You're either working out or you're hitting someone. Those are the two things you do as a football player. And when they threaten to take that away and everything that comes with it, the glitz, the glamour, the fame, the notoriety, I think that's what gets these guys. It's not getting back out there for the team. It's the fact that I worked for a guy here in Albuquerque who purchased a Mercedes from Clinton Portis when he was playing for the Denver Broncos. This guy's rich. He owns one of the malls here. He's worth millions. Tells me that there was an old receipt from one of the nice hotels, the Brown Palace in Denver. It's like the big fancy hotel or whatever.
Yeah.
He had the suite, spent $85,000 in a week. Now, Sean, you tell me, if they're asking you to go back out there on the field, are you thinking about the $85K you just blew a week ago in that hotel with all them women and your family and all that? Or are you thinking about, man, I really need to do this for the guy who tapes my ankles in the locker room because he really wants us to win this Super Bowl?
Okay, two things, though. One, the vast majority of these players are not Dan Marinos. They're not Clinton Portises. They're guys you've never heard of. So, yeah, of course, even the lowliest of NFL talents makes a great living. But I think the reason why you have big names like Marino getting involved in this is because they're trying to lend their celebrity towards this cause. Okay. And number two is the fact that these players weren't making nearly as much as the modern players are now. So despite the fact that concussions are much, more, we know a lot more about them. They're talked about more. We're talking about them right now. The fact is that these players are playing a safer game while making more money. So if players in the past generations, in the 70s, 80s, were playing a rougher game and getting paid even less and maybe being, like I said, misled or just not given the whole truth, then maybe they do deserve some compensation. And that settlement that the NFL made is still in the court system. So I think that this isn't really a new lawsuit. It's just trying to add more pressure to get the settlement done.
Yeah, and I understand where you're coming from. It's all politics. These guys have to operate in the same manner in which someone's trying to operate a lobbyist in D.C. You have to have someone with a big name to jump on the cause, and I understand why you do have to get a Dan Marino. But at the end of the day, like I said, I had a buddy played for the Redskins, Devin Clark. He's made his money. He owns some property. He owns a little restaurant/bar. He did okay, and he still got a settlement from his injuries from the Redskins. My question to the NFL, to these lawyers on both sides, when all this shakes out and the dust settles, will people be able to continue to do this under the idea of I wasn't compensated at the rate that these guys were compensated today? Because what I worry about is just the game of football in general. Because like you said, I don't feel sorry for billionaires. Me neither. I agree with you. Most Americans agree with you. But at the end of the day, I always remember this. My dad's job was Siemens. Something went down with taxes, with how things were going to operate with the state of Indiana. They were in Mexico. At the end of the day, those billionaires are going to do what they got to do to protect their money. And we've already heard about NFL globalization. We've already heard about all this mess. I just think they start to entertain those things when they're getting their money chipped away and they got players suing them.
Okay, how about this? Would you agree that maybe NFL players should get health care for life? Maybe not cash, but
that's agreed. I agree on all that. All that stuff that they got settled in the players' contract from a year ago or 2 years ago now, from the big settlement insinuating from the lawsuit with the concussions. I agree with that. No one should be a part of a multi-billion-dollar organization and not be protected for life. People who are tenured at companies are protected for life.
Yeah, they are.
So, yeah, those same things should be guaranteed. But like I said, Sean, I know guys who have blown a $700,000 a year salary. Like, guys who are broke, played NFL ball, made the money me and you dream about, and blew it no quicker than they obtained it. It's just gone. And I just wonder, I'm like, is this the guy in line? Is he the one that's champion behind Dan Marino? Like, they didn't fairly compensate me. I need my money. No, buddy, you blew $1.5 million and you're sleeping on your mom's couch again. That's what I worry about. That's wrong to me. Just like anybody who lies for government assistance, the same thing.
Okay, now before, I know you got a couple NFL stories to get to too, but I want to send you into a quick panic, if I may. Ed Werder tweeted today that the Cowboys are evaluating all options replacing linebacker Sean Lee, including
you had to go there,
including vets like Brian Urlacher and John Vilma.
See, ladies and gentlemen, I was being good. I wasn't going to talk about the Cowboys. I already got to talk about Josh Hamilton coming through in Isotope Stadium. That was my local piece. I consider, Isotopes, Cowboys, that's local out here with us. But now Sean has went and he insulted us. He's so what? If we want to entertain Brian Urlacher, I don't care if they want to entertain Brett Favre. At the end of the day, Jerry Jones is doing what he thinks he needs to do to win football games. Because look out there. All those linebackers have been picked up. So he needs to get somebody into camp to run with the ones, the twos. And soon there's going to be a ton of them out there. I was just reading an article on foxsports.com, and it was the abundance of linebackers in the NFL is going to be a plus for these coaches. Well, I'm thinking that just means a lot of linebackers are going to get cut. So Jerry's going to be able to pick through the, drippings here real soon. I think those talks are just to get them through practice. You need bodies, and you need good bodies. You don't want to have Tony Romo working on his 3-step drop with some guy who was smoking cigarettes last week, laying bricks because he got cut from the Bengals 2 years ago. No, you want to go get Urlacher, who's probably still enjoying a workout regimen that's tougher than 2/3 of the people that play the position right now. The guy's a beast. Urlacher is always around Albuquerque. If you ever see him, look at him. He hasn't played supposedly has been retired. If you see him, the dude is a beast. He's been Fox. Yeah. What is that? The college football? Does he do college or NFL?
No, NFL.
It's NFL, yeah. And, yeah, the dude looks like he can play. So
Okay, so you heard it here first. Brian Urlacher to the Cowboys.
Hey, let's hope. Hey, I would be excited. I know people out there like, another dumb Cowboys fan. Yeah, I may be stupid, but at the end of the day, we have been 8-8 for 3 years of 8-8. I don't care if we go find some kid kicking footballs in Australia. If he is going to kick the 3 points that get us into the playoffs, I'll entertain it right now, Sean.
Plus, they have really nice retirement homes in Dallas, from what I've heard. So it's a win-win. So what did you see this week, Bo, in the NFL world that stuck out to you, man?
Well, there was a very, very good story there. Minnesota linebacker rescued a family in a boat, in a bass fishing boat on Lake Minnetonka. I'm kind of stumbling through this story here. I wasn't
better
really
watch
prepared.
out for Prince in Lake Minnetonka cleansing his soul in the clean waters. Do you remember that Dave Chappelle skit?
Yeah. Well, one of those deals, I just, every once in a while we like to talk about something good. Speaking of the Dave Chappelle skit and Prince, not to get off on something different, but I was in a gas station last week. And I don't know if I remember, I told you I was going to really make an effort to talk to people and so I can get things for the show. There's an old man in there, I would say probably in his late 60s, early 70s, ponytail down to his back, has on the Prince Forever tour from last year t-shirt.
Nice.
And I'm thinking like, no, his kids got him that t-shirt. No, he's been to like every Prince summer tour since like 86, bro. This is no joke. Like, this dude lives on the south side of Albuquerque, drives a Dodge Cummins diesel, because we talked all the way out to the parking lot about how Prince is the greatest entertainer ever. And I just thought that was interesting right there. But
so I guess what happened here was that some bass fishermen had engine problems. Their boat stalled out, and this is one of those lakes that has like one of those giant drains near the dam. So if you lose engine power, you could theoretically get sucked right into that bad boy.
Killed.
Right.
It's very dangerous. I remember on one of those shows a few years ago, I seen where it had happened to someone in Texas, where their bass boat was sucked through the dam. Luckily, they were able to escape. Crush the boat. The power of that water is that power is used to power turbines a lot of times for electricity. Mm-hmm. So it's some powerful stuff. But it was a Chad Greenway, linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, and he happened to just be on the scene out there on the lake. I don't know if he was fishing or what was going on, but he sees the boat drifting and goes out, not in a boat himself, but like just swims out there, grabs the boat, and brings them over to shore. Luckily, this dude is probably at the height of his training because the NFL season is right around the corner. But that's one of those deals, people, to where, you're going to hear us sit here talk about the Ray Rices. We're going to talk about the guys out there that are doing things that are just horrible, Aaron Hernandez. But every once in a while, you're going to hear a story of just what I like to call a good old boy. He is a good old boy. Hanging out by the lake, see some people in trouble. He doesn't think about his $1 million career, doesn't think about the possible Super Bowl for the Minnesota Vikings. That's a joke. Had to hold back that laughter. But he jumps in the water and brings them out. So 2 thumbs up to Mr. Greenway, and good luck on the season this year.
So were Roy Hibbert and Paul George okay then? Or
Oh, we had to go there. No, see, they were on another lake. they were on an entirely different lake, far away from people like you. You're going to take photos of them and make fun of the Pacers, who had nothing to do with the decision of Larry Bird and the front office, but that's another time.
And speaking of the NBA, coming up next, we're going to be talking the NBA Finals with the Bleacher Report, our friend Stephen Babb, and also this Justin Bieber story. Bieber got himself into some trouble. Mayweather's defending him. Bo's got a strong take. It's coming up next on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey everybody, thank you very much for listening to the Sean and Bo Show. We need your support. We're currently now listed on iTunes, so please subscribe, tell a friend, a coworker, a loved one, your 8-year-old, but listen to the show and have somebody else listen to the show too. Also, while you're at it, follow the show on Twitter at Sean and Bo Show. And if you'd like to hear previous episodes, you can listen to the entire library for free, seanandboshow.podomatic.com. Back to the show. Welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show. Now, the Pacers might have looked uglier than the big old churro-eating women of San Antonio, but Bo hasn't given up hope, and even though they're eliminated, we're still talking NBA ball. And now we bring in our friend Stephen Babb from the Bleacher Report. Now, Stephen, you live in San Antonio. Charles Barkley's statement, valid, fair, not fair?
I think I'd be in trouble if I didn't say not fair.
Okay, yeah, cover your bases, man.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I don't need somebody beating you with a frying pan or anything.
That's right. I'm still living there, so I got to be careful about what I say. But much love for Charles. I know he's just having fun with us. I think some of the fans are a little bit sensitive about it and probably get a little too riled up. But he's just having fun with us. That's, if you know Charles and if you watch him all year, that's how he is. So no offense taken.
That was so great when he was telling the crowd, hey, I don't suck. You suck. Yeah. Such classic Charles. So let's start there with the Pacers. Bo's been fighting back tears this whole episode. He's deeply traumatized.
You hear what I have to put up with over here, Babs? This is crazy, man.
I'm sorry, Bo. I'm sorry. I feel you.
As if I was in the room telling Larry Bird to get rid of Granger and go get my main man, what's his name, just released.
Evan Turner.
Yeah. And the other guy from the Lakers, I could not believe we even had him on the roster.
Dude with the high top?
Oh, yeah, gosh, the big guy.
Oh, no, wait, no, I'm thinking of it.
Was living on the beach a few years ago. But anyway.
So what's your opinion on the Pacers collapse? Was that a matter of being out-coached? Was it just inconsistent play, and we should just blame Hibbert and George? What do you think? Where do you think the blame lies in that organization?
I'm not sure if there's anyone in the Pacers organization I would blame. I think we should probably blame ourselves a little bit for expecting more from the Pacers. You know, they're a good team, but on paper alone, if you compare their talent with what Miami has, it's just they were outmatched. I think they were outmatched from the very beginning. So, you know, they put up a good fight. It was admirable. I think, you know, Paul George had a great game in there, but you know, in terms of blame, I don't blame Vogel. I think he's a good coach. I'm glad to see they're keeping him around. I think Larry Bird made some mistakes by just, you know, trading Granger. I like Evan Turner a lot, but I think Danny Granger was just, you know, such a part of the locker room, and Paul George was really devastated when he left. And Paul George had his off the court distractions too. So I think this locker room.
What was that about?
A lot of responsibility.
We kind of heard a tidbit of that. Like there was a woman involved. Did you ever hear what the real story with that was?
Well, I think that he had some photos that were released, and you know, there was some speculation that he had been catfished by some guy, and George came out and said that, you know, he knows who it is. He said it wasn't a guy. He said, you know, that he didn't take it any further than that. He didn't explain or point any fingers, but he said he knew what was going on. So I don't know. But it's one of those. It's just another distraction to kind of pile on. You lose Granger. Andrew Bynum comes on board kind of randomly, even though, you know, he hasn't been healthy in forever. And I think the locker room just took a hit. And not to mention Lance Stevenson. We've seen him in his antics against the Heat. But apparently he does this stuff in the practice.
He's blowing on people in practice.
I think he's blowing on people in practice. Everyone has said that he's really, you know, gets on your nerves when he's defensively in practice. And you know, when Hibbert said that selfish comment, he said, "We have some selfish dudes in here." Apparently, the guy he was really referring to is Stevenson. So, you know, I think they just had a lot of issues. They're a young team. You got to give Vogel credit for kind of keeping them together as long as he did, I think. And so I'm glad he'll be back. And I think that they're going to get better. They're going to figure some stuff out. Guys are going to mature. They're going to take on leadership roles a little bit more easily. I mean, you have to remember, even though this team has been good for 2 or 3 years, they're still really, really young. Paul George is only 23, 24. Yes. Stevenson's real young. So, you know, give them some time. I think that we have not seen the best of the Pacers just yet.
That being said, you know, I think you put it as well as anybody could have put it about those Indiana Pacers. Along those same lines, do you believe that for the Indiana Pacers moving forward in the future, are they going to find it in the draft, or is it going to be a free agency move that gets them past the Heat?
I don't know if either one. I think that they may have to make a trade at some point. You know, it's going to be hard for them to just sign someone outright. But you know, they have free agent options right now with internally with Lance Stevenson and Evan Turner. I think there's a qualifying offer on Turner worth in the $8 million ballpark, and then Stevenson just got finished. You know, he was only making like $900,000 last year, which is, you know, a nice paycheck, but it's not much in NBA terms. And so now he's in store for a big raise. He's a free agent, so the Pacers have to decide: are they going to pay these guys and keep them around? And by all accounts, it sounds like they want to. It sounds like Larry Bird wants to. I think he's going to expect Stevenson to grow up a little bit and kind of earn his raise, but at the end of the day, they can't just let him walk and get nothing in return. That would probably be the worst case scenario for him right now.
Yes, definitely. Well, and officially here on the show right now, let's put the Indiana Pacers to rest for the 2014
I'm
season.
not done making fun of them yet,
Let's
Bo.
let
Come
them
on,
go
man.
fishing, as Sean would say. Let's let them all go fishing right now and get ready for next year. And moving on, the NBA Finals. They're finally here. We get to see the rematch. A lot of people forget from last year that if it wasn't for Mr. Ray Allen's last-second magic, possibly the Spurs right off into the sunset with yet another championship. What do you think is going to be the difference this year in the finals, Babs?
I think it's going to be the fact that the Spurs really won it. I mean, it sounds trite to say because obviously they wanted it last year, and obviously Duncan was pining for his fifth ring coming into the 2013 finals. But Duncan said it. They have a bad taste in their mouth. They've been getting better all year. They've been getting deeper all year. I don't know that last year's team could have won a game 6 against Oklahoma City without Tony. And that's what happened in Game 6. And so I think that showed a lot of how far they've come and how much how determined and resilient they are as a ball club. Not just one or two guys, but really, a 7, 8, 9-man deep rotation full of just really professional players that are ready to step up when they're called on. So, obviously Miami has the superstars. You can't rule out the fact that LeBron James is still the best, even though he didn't win MVP this year. And Dwayne Wade has been resurgent. He averaged almost 20 points a game in the conference finals, as you well know. And he looked great. And Bosch, he started off slow in that series. I think he had 9 points in each of the first 3 games, and he was just, bricking three-pointers left and right. But he really came on strong in the end, and I think had 70 points combined in the last 3 games or something pretty ridiculous for him. So it looks like everybody's firing on all cylinders for Miami. It's probably going to go 6 or 7 games. Just, I hate making predictions, but the educated guess is it's probably going to go 6 or 7. I have to like my Spurs, but, it wouldn't be surprising to see anything happen in this series. Both of these teams, talent-wise, are so good and so ready to play.
We're talking to Stephen Babb. He's a featured columnist on BleacherReport.com. You can tweet and follow him at Stephen Babb. Now, on the topic of predictions, I kind of like the Spurs too. I think Bo, you're in the same boat there, Spurs. Mm-hmm. So, and apparently Vegas, the early line has the Spurs favored too, which, too much agreement, man. We might be wrong here. I just don't like it when we all get along so well. What matchups do you think are going to be the ones to really watch in the series? What's it going to come down to?
Well, first of all, let me say I think you're right about jinxing the Spurs. It seems like there's way too much in alignment right now. But matchup-wise, I'm really excited about Kawhi Leonard's defense on LeBron. I think he played him well last season. The Spurs got away a little bit from what was working for them late in that series, and they almost dared James to beat them. And if you remember, he was 5 of 10 from the 3-point line in Game 7. So, and the Spurs just really gave him space. And like I said, we're almost daring him just to take those shots, and he ended up cashing in more often than not. So, but I think that they're going to come back with Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green, some really good perimeter defenders. Leonard is one of these guys who is not quite yet a big star and a big household name, but when you watch him play, he made this block/steal down the stretch against the Thunder when it looked like Russell Westbrook was going to get away with an easy layup. Mm-hmm. And he just makes these plays over and over again. And he's got the length. He's strong. He's athletic. He's really just, when the Spurs traded for him from the Pacers, as it were, a couple of years back on draft day, you had to think that in their back of their minds, they were thinking, we got to have somebody to stop the Kevin Durant and the LeBron James of the world. And you're not going to stop him entirely, obviously, but, look at Durant's numbers from that last series. They were good, but by his standards, they weren't great. He averaged almost 7.5 more points per game the previous series against the Clippers than he did against San Antonio. So I think that's a testament to how effective Kawhi is on the defensive end. Durant is still going to get his 25 a game. LeBron is still going to get his 25 a game. But you really don't want them scoring 40. You really don't want them going off and just taking a game over. And I think that that's where Leonard's defense is going to be really pivotal. And, it gives San Antonio a little bit of hope to keep the game kind of in control and manageable at times.
And you're kind of hitting on this earlier, and I think it's a good point, something that we all need to discuss. This could very well be the series where Mr. Spoelstra gets to put his name next to the trophy, and not just as a facilitator, but as the guy that's making the moves, making the calls. Because last year, hey, he got past Pop. That could be luck. You can call it whatever. If he gets past Popovich this time around, can we start to consider him a Phil Jackson, a Pat Riley?
Maybe not Phil Jackson or Pat Riley, but he's definitely getting up there. I mean, I think you're right. This third title would mean a lot for his individual resume. It's so he gets overshadowed and overlooked so much just because of the star power on this team. When you think of Miami, you automatically think of the big three. And after you think of the big three, you probably think about Ray Allen and some of the role players they got who are underrated too. And it seems like the last guy you think about is Eric Spoelstra, but he makes adjustments. He's a great X's and O's coach. And, you can make the argument that he outcoached Popovich last round. I don't think it was just luck. I think, he really, throughout that series, was reacting well to what the Spurs were doing. And he's a smart guy. He's a class act. There's a lot to like about Spoelstra right now, and and he's so young that I think that the best of Spo is yet to come. And his legacy would be take a serious ride if he wins another one. And even if he doesn't win another one this year, although he very well might, but even if he doesn't, he's going to get another one at some point and kind of keep his name in the discussion of the best coaches out there right now.
Game 1 of the finals kicks off Thursday night. We can't wait to see how that turns out. But not on the court. We have a couple of big question marks that are still yet to be answered. Number 1, Derek Fisher. He's probably going to coach next year. Where do you see him going, Bab?
It sounds like the runner is the Knicks right now. And I think that's the consensus. That's what the reports have been saying lately. And it makes a lot of sense. I think we talked a little bit about Phil Jackson last time, and this guy really wants someone who's a trusted associate, someone who he can mentor. And Fisher is only 39 years old, which is old for a player but young for a coach. And Jackson knows him. Fisher knows Jackson's system, so he really seems like the perfect fit. And he's young enough that he can be patient. The Knicks aren't going to be great year one. It's going to take him a couple of years to really rebuild, to get rid of some of these bad contracts like Bargnani and Stoudemire and bring in some new blood with or without Carmelo Anthony. It's kind of unclear what he's doing at this point. But whether he stays or goes, it's still going to take another couple of years, I think, for the Knicks to really get on track. And it helps having a young, vibrant coach like Fisher in the fold, because he'll be able to stick with those guys through thick and thin, and probably look pretty good when he comes out standing on the other end.
Yeah, we talked so much about these coaching changes recently. As a fan, not being on the inside of the NBA, not playing a high level of college basketball or anything like that, I've always wondered how much these talks about the coaches weighing on the minds of a Kevin Love or a Carmelo Anthony when they're discussing with their agents and their people around them what they're going to do in their futures.
Oh, that's a great point. I think it definitely plays a role. For Kevin Love right now, maybe not so much, just because I think he's so determined to get to a bigger city and to a bigger market and to play a starring role on a team that, I think if the Minnesota Timberwolves, regardless of who they hire right now, that he's probably gone. Now, that said, I think Kevin Love probably does have a short list of guys who he'd like to play for. And there's been talk about him going to Boston. Who knows where someone like Brad Stevens, another young coach, factors in his thinking. There's also, of course, speculation that he might want to play for the Lakers at some point, and they're still looking for a coach. So I think that if you're a franchise right now that's trying to either lure someone like Love or Carmelo, or retain someone like Carmelo, if you're the Knicks, then you have to be thinking about their coach and who they're going to want to play for. And I have no idea what Carmelo thinks about playing for Derek Fisher. I think Jackson is really trying to think long term right now. If he could kill two birds with one stone and make Carmelo happy with who he hires, then obviously he'd want to do that. But if you're Jackson right now, you can't be thinking exclusively about Anthony, because you just you don't know what he's going to decide to do. He could opt out. He said he would consider not opting out, which would give the Knicks a little bit of a foundation to build upon. But that's going to be a huge factor going forward for them.
He's running out of time, Mr. Anthony.
Yeah, he is. He went to New York with a lot of ambition, but he's getting up there. He's probably got another good 5 years in him. But he's impatient. He wants to win now, and it's going to be tough for the Knicks to do that.
He's Stephen Babb. He's a featured columnist on BleacherReport.com. You can read his articles there. Follow him on Twitter at Stephen Babb. Stephen, thank you for joining us very much today, and please watch out for those big old San Antonio women.
I'll try to do my best. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, Stephen.
Thanks, Stephen. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about Justin Bieber making a racist joke. Bo has some strong opinions about this, and also why the Russian Yeti might kill us all. That's right.
Oh, no.
It's the Sean and Bo Show.
Thanks for listening to the Sean and Bo Show.
We need money, people. Gear, better gear, server space, gas. All these things cost money. And
help me, please.
yeah, Bo's driving all the way across town to talk to you fine people. So we don't have any sponsors just yet, but we would love for you to be the first one. Bo, how do they contact us?
You can get a hold of us at seanandboshow@gmail.com. That's seanandboshow@gmail.com.
SEANANDBOSHOW@gmail.com. Same handle on Twitter. Hit us up.
Welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show.
What's this about Bieber sticking a big old boot in his mouth?
Well, yeah, he took a whole boot, like a size 22E, and shoved it in his mouth. A video surfaced this weekend, a la TMZ. Who else has a video besides TMZ? Is there anybody else that actually has a video nowadays besides these guys?
I remember when TMZ was just a website. Now it's like they're busting videos out on the weekly, lambasting somebody for something stupid they said, and it's happened once again.
Well, and it's funny you say busting them out. Apparently this video was from 4 years ago. It happened backstage before Bieber was set to go on and do a show somewhere in front of a group of gnarly teenage girls ready to tear him limb from limb to get a piece of him. And he's in the back, and he says a joke that I've known from a long time. I'm not going to repeat it. You can look it up online. It's along the lines of, why do black people not like chainsaws? And then it goes from there. Well, this video was given to TMZ exactly 4 years ago. But because of Bieber's age, they didn't want to risk, I guess you can't slam someone under 18 apparently, or I don't know what the law is on that, or what they were afraid of.
I'm not a lawyer, Bill.
But I imagine Harvey, the guy, the creator there of TMZ, he's very knowledgeable in what he can and can't do as far as lawsuits. So the video surfaces, and I thought it was very interesting because the first person what grabbed me was the article of Floyd Mayweather coming to his defense. So I'm thinking TMZ drops the video last week of Floyd and T.I., and then this week they do another person out of his entourage, Justin Bieber, dropping the N-word.
They're strategically taking out his entourage.
That's what I'm saying. It's like they're assassinating them one by one. Lil Wayne, if you're listening, watch out, brother.
Run, man.
Yeah,
Run.
yeah, you need to get underground and disappear because TMZ is getting you next. But, Floyd comes out. And it took me a minute to realize how mature Floyd was in the situation when he said, I'm a parent, I have 2 daughters, we have to allow young men and women to make their mistakes, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, don't get caught up in that, Bo. This is the same guy that was throwing chairs at the Fat Burger in Vegas a week ago. So that whole statement and the support from Floyd, you can throw that one out of the window. Justin, I know you were only 15, but when I was 15 in the town that I grew up in, when people used words like that and told jokes like that, we broke their nose.
That's the problem. He's got bodyguards. He's not on, and he can't just make stupid mistakes and let the natural cycle of getting your ass kicked a couple times take its course because he's got bodyguards bigger than us, Bo.
Yeah, well, see, this is the thing. This is where we always are reminded about the real world versus the fake Hollywood. Everybody has sponsorship and contracts, and you can't say anything to that guy because his dad is a mogul, blah, 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 whatever. I don't care. If a Floyd Mayweather, a Justin Bieber steps outside of their world, which Floyd did a week ago, you run into guys like T.I., who want to hurt you. You'll run into guys like me who will knock you out for saying things like that. Bodyguards or no bodyguards. That's the difference between those guys and the rest of us. When you and I were in the 5th grade, Sean, and we said things like that, we had to fight. I remember the first Hispanic individual in Indiana. There's not a huge Hispanic population. First Hispanic family that moved to our town. Someone said something along the lines of a sombrero and something to do with like Mexican jumping beans, and a fight broke out. It's the first time that I was clued into the fact that, oh my gosh, there are other people in this country that are offended if you call them words too. It's not just us. So you learn real quick as an American, don't go to the country music concert or the NASCAR race talking about hillbillies and pickup trucks. Don't go to the opera talking about people who eat Grey Poupon and have country club memberships. We all have our things. We all may seem a little quirky, but at the end of the day, if you grew up in the real world and didn't make $100 million by the time you were 12 years old, you knew better than to say these things. And, for this, Mr. Bieber, lost a whole lot of respect for you. My son used to be all into you, and he's starting to grow up. Asked me about 3 months ago, Dad, is Justin Bieber gay?
Yes, son, he is.
I'm just saying to myself, however you answer this question, you will be judged for the rest of your life by your kids. Because you all know, whenever you're like 50 years old, I've done this to my parents, you're coming back and you're going to bring up all the crap they told you and be like, that's not right. You're not supposed to tell kids this. Well, my son's 7, and he tells me, Dad, Fernando and Isaac on the playground said Justin Bieber's gay. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how do I answer this? So I played, I tiptoed around it. I was all PC and politically correct, and come to find out that while I'm making $22,000 and some change a year, living in Albuquerque, New Mexico, tiptoeing around the correct things to say in the privacy of my own home, little Justin Bieber at 15 years old was backstage dropping N-words, using N-word jokes to get a laugh out of some girls that he probably could have took home just because he was Justin Bieber. So I lost all my respect for him. Parents, dads, moms, if somebody asked you if Justin Bieber's gay because they heard it on the playground, you have my permission to say whatever the hell you want.
All right. Well, this is the segment of the show where we like to invalidate all of our professional sports opinions by talking some Bigfoot. And hold on a second here. Let me just get my Sasquatch beer ready.
He's getting his Bigfoot beer ready to go, people.
It's cold. On the Discovery Channel last night, there was an excellent show, Bo. I don't know if you caught this.
No.
The Russian Yeti. Now, get a load of this story. And I have to get you this episode because you absolutely must play this for your wife the next time before you go camping, just to freak her the hell out. Okay, 1959, group of 6 students just graduated. They were kind of celebrating. They decided they were going to go on a hiking and camping trip in Russia. So they set out, and it's one of these deals where they're gonna hike a while, camp, get to a mountain, camp, come home. Okay, so when they were discovered, first of all, they found the tent they were sleeping in. There were several slashes in the tent, and after some forensic examination, they determined that the slashes came from inside the tent. So these people were cutting holes into their tent. There was something outside. There was some noise that they heard. There was something that they had to peer out and see, what in the hell is that? Then, after they found the tent, they started to find the bodies. Totally disrobed in their underwear, like something had scared the hell out of them in the middle of the night, and they just ran for their lives. Scattered. None of the bodies were anywhere near each other. They all kind of ran in different directions. 2 of the bodies were found the only two that were in close proximity were found in a hiding position. Like they were hiding from something, and that something found them. And probably the most gruesome of them all, one of the girls had her tongue ripped out. Yeah. I'm telling you, got to play this for your wife.
That does it for me. That's all I need to know.
Okay, so the Discovery show went on to...
No one had a firearm, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, this proof again why these things don't happen in America, ladies and gentlemen. We are too armed to the teeth. We give our gun rights up, Yetis, Bigfoots, aliens will be all over this place. Move on.
Yeah, but okay, so the bodies were found, all of them dead, obviously. I shouldn't really have to say that, but they were found dead from like severe internal injuries, like they were thrown or beaten or they weren't like cut or shot or anything like that. And so they suspected that a local indigenous tribe maybe had something to do with this, because the students had some sort of conversation, altercation with this group of indigenous people while they were on their way out into where they were eventually killed. So they talked to a tribes member, and they said that they were trying to warn them. They knew there was something out there. They didn't know what it was, and they were telling these kids, you do not go out there. And they did, and the rest is kind of history over there. But
wow,
yeah, you want some well-behaved children,
yeah,
next time you go camping, Bo,
that's that's what I need to, and stories like that amaze me, that we all live on this planet, and it seems so small at times, but yet those things could take place sometime in history, and it's not that well known until the story gets out on a Discovery Channel or somebody writes a book about it. That's just, it's chilling to sit here and think that there has been an instance where there's been a group of people found, and you can't really explain what happened to
And it was kind of one of these shows where they drummed it up a little bit and made it more like reality TV. Like this researcher and his girlfriend were retracing. They were going through all the locations that these people were at. And at one point, towards the end of the show, they heard something. They were on the Death Mountain or whatever it was called. And so what do these idiots do? They grab a camera and a flashlight and run towards the woods. Here I am sitting at home, kind of sleepy, just crossing my fingers. Please, God, let this be the one time where we see Sasquatch
You'll never get that lucky.
Rip off a host's arm and beat them with it. Please, Lord.
Stop trying to film me. They just go all Kanye West on them. Just tell them how much they hate the paparazzi. It'll be like, you remember what I did to the last chick who came through here screaming? I ripped her tongue out. See? You pushed me too far.
Bigfoot's real, y'all. Watch out.
And he speaks English.
Now, Bo, before we wrap up the show, I think there was one more story that caught your eye involving a veteran over the weekend here.
Oh, not a veteran, but actually the United States' only known prisoner of war in Afghanistan
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
was released. His name's actually Bo Bingdal. I think I'm pronouncing that correct. 23-year-old from Idaho. He was taken by the Taliban in 2009. Now, normally, in America, we get a prisoner of war. We celebrate this, right? We bring him to the White House. His mom and dad are crying. Everybody's happy because we don't leave men and women behind. Well, this one here has some mixed feelings. And for me, being the conspiracy nut, I love the TV show on Showtime, Homeland. If you don't know about Homeland, Sergeant Grady is taken by the terrorists. They brainwash him. The United States send in a drone attack, kills the little kid who he was teaching English to, which is one of like the Taliban's leading guy's child. So now he is actually fighting the fight for the Taliban from the inside when he comes back as a hero.
Okay.
So like, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, 2009 is like the same time Homeland started. And here we go. We have this guy, the only prisoner of war, just appears. And on top of that, we give them 5 detainees from Guantanamo Bay. Now, if you know anything about Guantanamo Bay, they're not housing pedophiles and people who steal ice cream down there. These are real killers. And we just put 5 of them back for this young gentleman. So what started coming out was it kind of started from the top, and you could see the political dog kind of wagging where, the Republicans were going to use this to attack Obama. Obama's going to use this to wave the flag. But where I always try to find out, well, what's in the middle? What's everybody talking about? In 2009, when this young gentleman disappeared, Sean, the report went like this. He questioned a high-ranking officer, what would happen if I walked away? 4 hours later, he's gone.
Yeah.
People assumed he walked away.
Okay. Yeah.
He's a deserter.
Yeah. AWOL.
Deserter is worse than anything you can do.
Yeah, that'll get you hung.
Then on top of this, we don't know this for sure. This is where the speculation begins. There's certain like Joint Chiefs and people saying that there were missions carried out to find this gentleman where there was loss of life, where we actually lost like good, like special,
Operators, Marines,
like Navy SEALs to find this young gentleman. And then all of a sudden, here we are, 2014. He walks out of a camp wearing a Afghan type dress deal, and he looks decently healthy for someone who's been in a camp. If you've ever seen the old pictures of John McCain when they released him, he looked like a stick figure that was hobbling.
Yeah. This
guy looks like he's been getting his rations. So if there's anything out there that's kind of got me, I usually don't get into that big national news, political, because this is just a big political. This is like the new Benghazi, if you know anything about that.
Sure.
It's interesting. We now have this guy who is going to be on one side an American hero. Some people are going to see him as a traitor. Some people are going to see him as a deserter. And it's all going to play out in front of our eyes. And all I'm saying is, don't forget about Sergeant Brody. This guy might strap himself, ladies and gentlemen. If you've ever seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. Do not forget about Homeland.
And watch out for Bigfoot.
Yeah, and the Russian Yeti, because apparently that's more scary than the Russian bear, Putin.
That's right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Sean and Bo Show. We'll be back next Monday. Tip your pizza man.
Have a good one.